sometimes I've done that, and then you don't see it bounce back for 3 days, and then suddenly you're going to get it. Okay. Yep, I'm available.
Have a seat.
They'll be coming up. Don't do that.
Are there other agenda items that have?
What else is there?
Yeah, let's start with this. Okay. Well, we're trying to end it. I think you should take half an hour. Yeah, they're coming. Okay. Yeah, I hope some people do have some. But you explain it and the questions are going to...
Not yet.
No, not yet. Well, when you say.
Yeah. There's a test. You make sure everyone's prepared for the test. Everybody has a piece of paper now.
Scrap one. 20.
Oh, I see.
Catch up. I've been seeing you and not being.
I will say that.
Well, I know if you pointed out that back.
And you can ask.
Ready to start this.
And then the recording still gets everyone has to really job about me.
Things come together.
Thank you, Heidi. Did I press the which one? The left one that says mute? Yeah, it's all green. That's all right. Just keep talking. Okay, we'll wait for the microphone to start working, but I don't really need it for you to hear me. I think it's something to do with the recording. So, I think I know everyone, but if not, I'm Belinda, Helen, Corinne, and Dave. I would like to start by saying welcome, but I'd also like to start by saying thank you for everyone coming to the reunion and coming to the village meeting, but because I am really grateful. I know some people couldn't make it, and I know some people chose not to make it, and some people were wavering, but I'm really glad you all came, and I'm really glad I came, because I have had an amazing time, both just by being here. It's so evocative and just beautiful, and by reconnecting. So thank you that you all made the effort, because I appreciate it. I know at the village meeting the other day, the new leadership team were posing questions about, you know, what has happened and where they're going, and questions about why this place, or what this place is doing, whether it's unique, what it can be doing. And I think that, and just being here has prompted me to think about those questions, and all of us. And we were sitting around talking a lot about this based on other conversations we've had. So we thought this was a good forum to pose some of those questions. And we have two goals, we realised. One was reflection, and the other is offering. So the first one is reflection, is just giving us an opportunity to reflect upon what was so special about being here for 2 years. You know, was it formative? Was it transformative? Sitting around talking a lot about this based on other conversations. I don't even know what I sound like.
It's from 30 seconds ago, so you know, you've already said it.
Yeah. And then thinking more about some of the the logistical, practical questions, because we know the management have constraints. So thinking about what was it that made those experiences so special, right? What were some of the things that enabled it to be so special? And then thinking about what that meant for our lives going forward. These are the things we were asking, so we thought they would be good questions to reflect upon. And the flip side is, well, not the flip side, but the complementary aspect of it is, if we jotted those down, it would not only allow us to reflect, we could then hand them up for what it's worth to provide to the new leadership some ideas about what it meant for us. I mean, we're 30 years on. So, okay, memories aside, no more jokes about bad memories and so on, because the positive side of aging is experience. And I think we all went here, we've moved on to other institutions, either through studying, teaching, some of us have kids or have other kids involved in our lives, we've seen other places. So I think now we've got a bit of depth of experience to reflect upon what that experience meant for us. And I think that can be useful both for us to think about, but also for those who are trying to shape the college now, and those who are trying to get support for this experience. So that's what we're proposing. Did you have? Sorry.
No,
That's an experience.
Bang on. No, each time we're here with a different group of people, with different things having happened in our lives, and different memories are triggered, and then that's also framed in what's going on in our present day lives outside of here. So for me, an example is reconciliation. Well, that wasn't a word on the radar when I was a student here, or at my 10-year reunion, and it was just sort of at the front edge at the 20-year reunion, right? And now it's on very present in the Canadian conversation, and not just for Canada, but Canada and its place in the world. The reflections now at our 30-year have some new frameworks to attach it to in terms of what happened 30 years ago that's influencing our interactions there now.
And I was thinking, I mean, on that particular point, I thought, the talk today, I'll just start with an acknowledgement of country, and then I thought, no, I'm not in Australia, but I should still acknowledge the country. In Australia, we always give an acknowledgement of country and pay our respects to the traditional owners of the land, and I thought, oh my dear, I don't know the traditional owners of the land. And I spent 2 years here, and I've spent 30 years since, and I'll just fess up now that I'm really embarrassed by that. And the next 3 days I'm going to rectify it.
So with Cheyenne First Nation and just acknowledging that, it was a huge part missing from our experience, and we could be ashamed, embarrassed, whatever for that, but we also weren't tooled to know otherwise, and I think we have a great opportunity to celebrate now in hindsight all of the aspects of our rich time here that can be attributed to being in the lands, the unceded territory of Cheyenne First Nation, and their neighbors, as we roved all over the island and the Lower Mainland and British Columbia, doing what we were doing as students here, and I think there's the opportunity now for students is even more rich in that realm to connect in different ways with people in place, and to pursue those foundational objectives of the college.
And that raises a point about how we, after 30 years, can see all the better things that are here now, all the things that have improved, both in terms of physical things, observatories and so on, greenhouses, food, things that have improved.
Washing the dishes.
Yeah, getting involved in service, having to do dishes, kitchen service, not being such entitled prats, sorry. And having to be more involved in the day-to-day running of the college. Like, I think they're great improvements in what's going on here. And, we might come along and go, oh my God, they don't have land rescue service anymore, but they have a whole lot of other things that are good. So the last point I was trying to make was that there are many ways in which we contribute and give in our lives. In terms of giving to the college, some of us are financially able to do that, and that's the way we do it. This, to me, feels like a good way for us to give back. Not necessarily financially, do that if you can, if you want to and so on, but by contributing. We're here now, it's evocative, we've connected and so on, so it might have evoked a few more memories for you to give up to each other, but also to the leadership team. A way to contribute back in the way you can. So what we're proposing, anything else about that? Got enough context? So I think what we're proposing is we have 3 questions. There's paper handed around. We're proposing that you at least pair up, right? So find a buddy, someone next to you, and take a moment to chat about these 3 questions. We've tried to make them open enough. Maybe they're too open and they're vague. Make of them what you will. And then either jointly or individually, or as a group if you can manage that, but I think pairs are probably most effective, jot down your answers. A, B and C, or however you like, just jot down some answers, some response. It doesn't have to be the most formative experience, the best thing, the way you're saving the world now. It really is an opportunity to reflect and an opportunity to offer up some views that this leadership might not know about because it was 30 years ago and it was our experience, but it might still be interesting or of use to them. So I think we'll take about 10 minutes or so to do that. And we're not then going to gather them all and chat about them all. We will gather the bits of paper, but if it does provoke some discussion and we have time, we can do that now. Otherwise, it can go on to the cafeteria or to the canoe or to the lunch or the follow-up sessions.
And Benoit has offered that with his team, they'll gather and not necessarily collate, report back, but have that as a snapshot of the here and now for who is present, and can also pose these questions electronically to those who aren't here. So while that thought path is happening, in the spirit of it can be called appreciative inquiry, grateful reflection, but just getting some of the first few steps of appreciative inquiry as we contribute to future design. And the awareness of what were some of those features that were behind the experiences that made them possible, that whether it's autonomy, whatever it is.
It's not an exam, so interpret the questions as you like.
All the non-scientific disclosures, right?
Yeah.
Disclaimers.
Okay, start chatting.
And if you're here as a friend or family, contribute from your perspective as a witness to the experience.
Well, no, we can just both write on there.
Okay.
Is there any paper left?
Yeah, Emmanuel should have it.
It should be up there. Articulate it at the time.
Okay. Anyway, let's get. There's no paper. You call paper. You don't handwriting.
I'm not sure.
So what?
It's handwriting.
It's all bullet points rather than
Funny because I hear what was most humbling.
No, exactly.
The academic program. Because I was in higher everything possible in high school in Montreal. And then I get here and I feel like I
I
suddenly...
realized this yesterday. I was good looking at the television.
I guess in a way that was humbling.
Well, the television. That's okay. I don't think I should see it.
Not to take...
And you're almost half when you like
I
That's
just
all
was
right.
using this time since I'm not in the group.
Yeah, no, go for it.
I have one email. Hi,
I'm Corinne.
Corinne, Desiree. Nice to meet you. Where are you from?
From the U.S.
Okay.
Representative. I'm going to run, so I'm just taking it.
Where are you from in the U.S.?
Send it in. I'm from California.
Oh, great. What part of California? Where are you now?
Still like I know
Oh, okay. I think it's a slightly different accent. Like it's not American. It's not like you're there. American.
being here in the
Maybe. Yeah.
At noon, so when you take over this morning, you can
digital world and technology and all that. As teenagers, that's something you could export.
The whole idea is to get
Very important project. Adults? Smartphone penetration and use population. That's great. And they don't know how to self-regulate. What's wrong, you know? I mean, actually talking to people gets that, right?
But there are upsides to it too, right? Like now more than ever, alumni are able to connect with each other and stay in touch more frequently because of the same technology.
And students who are doing projects can learn about all this cool stuff, right? And teachers, the classes can be more interesting.
And it's become a necessity in a way because the IB has increased its demands with increase in technology. So like, now you have to upload your IAs and your PDs, and they're expected to be typed and have like 5 different types of sources. You have to have a video source, not only books.
Really?
So the demands of the IB have increased in proportion with increase in technology. So it's not like, we could just ignore it.
Yeah, I remember the EE, typing the EE.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, good luck.
Same like that. Thanks for introducing yourself. See you 10 years ago.
Probably. Fun, yeah. I know they're all national committees or whatever, but from a fundraising point of view, I wonder as we get the alumni thing going.
Like what events?
Like you have regional events.
Oh, like in, yeah, well, I think
Somebody have to work and all that good
have to
stuff.
be an alumni, so like there have to be national committees.
Like motivate them to.
National committees are really important colleges and we work together to manage. They're very diverse. So,
We're expecting to interact. We have a lot of latitude to challenge, to speak up.
They're not private, so they're public.
Yeah. No, I'm just thinking of your revenues to get all those, kind of like Tupperware parties. If you can get a cut in all those things, that's a lot of.
National committees and scholarships.
Okay, but then we colleges. It's just on a different boat.
National committees have fundraisers, scholarships. We all the colleges have one levy or there's national like scholarships.
Okay, is everybody ready?
National committees to help them.
Another 30 seconds to finish conversations, wrap it up. Okay, a 30-second request.
Sorry, private conversation about our reflections.
Okie dokie. So and thank you. There was a good buzz in here. People jumped to task and focused on the relationships in the exercise. And I stumbled into an unexpected conversation that I really appreciated with Melanie. So I guess the what next, you can choose to share or not. You could share something you heard from whom you were speaking, if they're comfortable with that, or share your own reflection. And the thought is to not do any layer or level of evaluation or ranking or getting the top 3 things for each question and category, but to just listen and honor that time and space and experience that each of us had and continues to have and hopes to have as we move forward. So this is very active, and there's a bit of us that I hope is self-serving too, not just as an offering to the college as they move forward. So if you don't care to share, if you're happy, we'll collect all of the papers. You can put them on the stage or hand them to one of us as the village gathering closes, and we'll get those to Benoit and team. Does that sound clear? Good. Question or offering?
Oh. No, for me, I've been reading a lot of what people post all the time, no? And I have a personal opinion on 2 things. One is I believe that the college, in a certain way, is not truly facing the challenge it has financially. And that challenge cannot be put as a pressure on ex-students. When we came here, we came on merit, and it wasn't a obligation of us to financially support an institution that needs to face its own realities. I think the school needs to definitely knock on the proper doors. We live in a world today of the billionaires, and we need to go and start knocking on those doors and sucking up to them, so that maybe Facebook or Google or Airbnb put some real money into this. And what made it special for me was that I was able to disconnect from my background. I came from a Mexican Jewish community that values everything in terms of money. And I was able to come here with a bunch of nerds to me. And I was able to find common ground with certain. This is one. And I was able to find that I could connect with people from completely different parts of the world based on my energy, my crazy way of being. And what served me at the end was the fact that, as all of you know, I am in commercial prostitution. I buy and sell everything from all over the world. And what I do is, and I began here by taking some of you guys to Pagliacci's 30 years ago, or getting you drunk, or making you smile with my inappropriate comments.
Still doing that,
I try to make people happy. And I think we can make the world a much better place, even each and every single day. We try to make one happy person, one laughter, one happy moment, one memorable moment. I think that's what makes truly the world a better place, and it doesn't have to be that we need to be the United Nations headmaster or changing, curing cancer. It begins with us, our families, our kids, our friends, our community, our colleagues, our employees. If we can be kind to one another for the little time that we spend every single day, then we make a world a better place. And to those of you who have had the chance to come to Miami or come to Mexico or wherever I go, I knock on your door, you see that happens. And if we can promote more of that, And I think we're truly building what the college gave us. Amen.
And actually, if we could still have the questions up on the screen, that might be useful for just.
It's the white noise.
Oh, okay.
So,
Okay.
it's fine, just speak up.
But thank you, Miguel, and appreciated the frame you gave to that.
I'm going to do my flaky one, which I just shared with mine. I started by, what I wrote was learning to see the beauty that exists within everyone. But what I meant is what the college taught us was to go beyond our disagreement and our annoyance. You know how you were so annoyed so frequently. They created the conditions for us to collide and be really angry at each other. And then they taught us how to go beyond those disagreement, annoyances, and difference of opinions, and to try to see where the person was coming from and what their intentions were behind it. And how this person really, even though you like kind of hated them at that point, really was a beautiful human person, which had a valid reason why they were pursuing that opinion. And I've used that after everywhere, and I think the skill is useful for whatever you do. And you're a housewife. I remember having kids and being at home and going to the drugstore and seeing a kid that's like doing bacon on the floor and a harried mother, and you're like, okay, what's beautiful in there? Like, what's happening? And then trying to find out, you have a very curious kid. Like, he looks so engaged with like the floor, and trying to like switch the situation to see what's nice and how can I make people feel out of that, or really ruthlessly trying to negotiate to get my way at work and get something good for the country by being able to understand where the opponent or the decision maker is at and understanding what's driving them, what's their passion. And so that skills of understanding the people's motivation and their beauty and their passion is something that is very, very useful. And we kind of got the trades of that here.
Can I just step in, just luxury of a chair? That too, I think, builds on something we were talking about, which is that not only did the college bring us together and make us collide, but it was that allowed and enabled and expected us to take some responsibility for what was going on, and to say, well, if you don't like it, suck it up or stop whinging and go and do something about it. And then you go, oh, that means a village meeting. That means endless discussion or negotiation or whatever. You go, oh, that's democracy. Wow, and that sort of having to think about why it doesn't bother people, why it does bother people, why it matters to people, why it doesn't matter to people, and so on. And I too use that all the time in parenting and being a teacher and thinking about equality law, which I do, and it is building on that. So sorry to intervene, but yeah, David?
Yeah, everything we wrote down here was from a positive point of view, and I think the questions are formulated in some ways to seek that. And so I don't want this to be a criticism, but it's my observation, first of all, when you look at who's in the room and who's not in the room, who's in the room are the survivors and the thrivers and the ones who had, frankly, the capacity to get here, whether financial capacity, emotional capacity, cultural capacity, geographical capacity, or otherwise. And I think it's obvious when you look around and you think of your roommates and you think of everyone else, that there are many groups that are underrepresented here versus what the diversity that we had when we were here. I'm talking Indigenous students, I'm talking people from the Global South, I'm talking people from the Eastern Bloc countries, and so forth. And one of the observations I've made, part and parcel of that, is that for all its treasured values and experiences, Pearson College operated by creating a wound. And it was a wound between us and our cultures, between us and our homes, between us and the timeline we had foreseen for ourselves. In many ways, it was a wound in our families, in our relationships, and so forth. I think the people who are in this room are largely people for whom that wound was able to become a ritualized experience, and one that could be healed. So, like a tattoo, or scarification that you take on deliberately and then live with as a life marker. But I want to commend the college for recognizing that that wound was far more than what many people had the capacity to deal with, far more than they expected, and maybe far more than was useful to the experience that we were looking to create for people. And I'm grateful that that recognition occurs and that work is being done to help people ritualize and heal and comprehend that in the timelines of their lives. And I just want to put that out there.
And for me, that speaks, and thank you very much, that speaks to the importance of conflict, the importance of challenge, the importance of falling on our faces and really struggling. And out of that, there's the stimulus, right? The stimulus to have it up close.
But also that balancing of, even when we talk about risk, how much risk is healthy and good and how much is not, and how much structure do we need to be able to feel like we're independent and so on, but how much do we need to be caught or, helped and supported when it goes all terribly wrong, or it's just too far for one and not another, and so on.
I think there needs to be genuine independence, so not just feeling like you're independent. We had a lot of independence in my day. I know I haven't been on campus recently, but the sense I get is that there is less of that. And the formative experiences for me were all about the independence, was working hard to achieve something, and then being given the responsibility to do that because I had proved that I was competent. And all of those things taught me to make risk assessments, to manage risk, to mitigate against it, because I had the responsibility of the buck stopping with me. And what made that possible was not only excellent training, so that I knew that I had the knowledge and experience, but staff who modelled reflective learning. So if it did go a little bit wrong, nobody came down on me like a ton of bricks. They were sitting down, they was talking about it, they was using those near misses as learning experiences. And if we want to grow change makers, which is what this space should be doing, change involves risk. And you have to learn to think about it in an informed and creative way. And to do that, you have to start doing it early and be confident enough to take risks in a managed fashion.
And many people, I think that was in the outdoor environment.
Yeah.
But it's not only, for me it's social conflict. That's the greatest, fear and risk that I face, and I think managing that. It's a good one. Sorry. Amal, I think, was next.
I just wanted to distill it because I really agree with them, and it came up from what Brett was telling me that really resonated with me was the idea of autonomy, to which I would graft liberty and responsibility. That, and I think that, okay, the idea of autonomy, which goes hand in hand with liberty, but also responsibility. And I think allowing and making it possible for students to continue to grow and thrive and evolve in an environment that permits risk, not ridiculous risks, but my heart does ache for the purging of so many of the things that I felt were incredible growth mechanisms for me, and perhaps worth paying the premium for those risks. I'm thinking everything from diving and mountain rescue and a number of other services which seem to be much more controlled or less open than they used to be, driving pools, things like that. I understand mitigating risk, but they were incredible growth vehicles for many of us, if not all of us. And autonomy, liberty, responsibility, and I think the notion of still a risk and growth environment.
And I think you got
I just want to come back to what Miguel said. I mean, your experience was, my experience was very similar. So my experience was very similar to yours. I came from a society where there was a particular place that had been kind of assigned to you. Everybody knew where you were, who you were, and then to come into a place where everybody was every bit as different as you, it just gave you this room to, go off in directions that would have been unthinkable back home. And that was just profoundly transformative. I also want to sort of build on what you said about the financial aspect, because when I read that the college was scaling back to 80 students a year, I thought to myself, this is serious stuff. I mean, this is not something the college could have done lightly. And being in a university now, where we also have, we have a development operation, we rely on goodwill, but also on billionaires, right? I think there are a sort of a number of things, that I'd like to sort of add as perhaps qualifications. Number one is I've never felt pressure to give to PC, and I've never given gobs of money because I don't have the capacity. But I do feel that when you're approaching billionaires, one of the first questions they ask is not how much do your alumni give, but what percentage of your alumni do you give, right? Yeah. Even if it's $1 a year, $1, which I think everybody in this room and perhaps beyond can afford. If you have a high percentage, it just pops, pops eyes and eyebrows and says, wow, this place is really meaningful to people that go through it. And when I compare Pearson College percentages, our batch, right, I think we're somewhere between 20 and 30%. That's like so far beyond what some large universities in the US at least get. And it's already, it's just an amazing number. And I think we can, even though we may not feel empowered to give the college that endowment that will, fund a scholarship in perpetuity, that $1 that some of us give that we may not have given in the past can leverage that endowment in the future. The other thing is I have a sanguine view, just given that percentage, about the future of the college. I think what we are going through right now, Miguel, is I think it's a temporary bump, right? It's a bump because we've been drawing down the endowment a little faster than you're supposed to, all of those kinds of things. But when we came to the college, it was a very young place. It was 13 years old, right? And the oldest of our alumni were probably about 30 years old. And they were youngsters. They were just making their lives out there. And my observation in our university has been that people who really connect to a place, for a lot of the sort of more regular folks, their giving capability comes when it's time to make a bequest or a testament, I think, or testamentary giving or something like that, they call it in Canada. And really, our most generous contributions have come from former professors and alumni. They are the people whom the place transformed. And so I do think that this is a longer game, but there is a dream. There's a possible dream in which every scholarship in this college could potentially be funded by one of those 3 or 4 people in each year who have been so fortunate financially that for them it's like, okay, I'm leaving a bequest. This is almost an afterthought. Yeah, let's leave a little bit for Pearson College. It's 50 years from now, maybe, or 30 years. I think it could happen with a place like this more so than any university I can think of in the United States. It's doable.
I think maybe that's the last because we've run out of time.
Yeah, I just following us on Dave's point, I think it might be worth asking people, try and get some feedback from the people who don't come to see why is it that they don't come. Because I think, obviously some people it is a financial restriction, but I know from, seeing what people are doing and that for a lot of people it isn't, that it's not particularly a financial constriction, but they obviously don't feel the same priority, or they're not. So it might be interesting, I suppose, to know what is it about that. Why do some people not feel that? Is there something we could do to be more inclusive, or to sort of try and work on that?
I imagine that's quite a challenge. I know they did do a survey in 2006 and another in 2013, but a bit like coming, maybe you don't answer the survey either, or you've dropped off, or you've been out of touch. But there are.
In a private way more than necessarily in an open forum.
Sorry, if I can just add to that. it's not even about the response to the survey. And I think, by the way, this doesn't just apply to the question, why don't some people come, but why don't some people give? What I would recommend the college do much more is engage in conversations with those people and ask for their feedback. And even if they don't respond, we've asked. And that may lead to some change in the future. So.
Here we have an online contribution. Can everyone read that from there?
I've told the sewer line, the shit dive story to so many people so many times. And then it's also alongside the tastiest crabs harvested in Penner Bay story for the diving service feasts. So very good crabs along the sewer line. So thank you everyone for sort of engaging on what we thought would hopefully be useful in the here and now and maybe in future conversations, and in the inquiring to those who aren't giving or aren't able to be here, and then some of the reasons why maybe without the burden of a survey that has page after page, maybe there can be a simple invitation with these 3 questions, if they indeed seem relevant, to use that as entry to that conversation that could also have, hey, if you weren't able to make it to this reunion, is there anything the college or the organizing committee could have done to make it more accessible? And we have to accept that it just won't be for so many people for so many great reasons, and others that we can have some influence over. So maybe that can be a way that this moves forward.
And yes, certainly it will. And the college is constantly coming up with ways of engaging with students, not just right out of a reunion, but when it's fresh like that, alum, you call them students all the time. So I'd like to thank all of you. If you can just leave this group here that you came up with this idea. Congratulations. And at this point, I have a question for you. Yes, there will be follow-up, and the follow-up will come after you've left, after you've arrived home and slept a little and thought about this and mulled it over, and you will have an opportunity to give your feedback. You always have an opportunity, but we'll spark it for you. And now we have Corey Bradshaw, who is going to make a presentation, but I have a question to you who are assembled here. Yesterday we took a great picture of all of you and your families. You might wish to take a picture of who you are as alum assembled here. We could do that just outside, just before Corey starts his presentation. Show of hands if that is of any interest to this group. Do you wish to have a picture like that? So Darren, the only one who wasn't in the picture yesterday, would love to have a picture with you. We'll Photoshop Darren into the picture.
No, I think it would be worthwhile to have a
Okay, it obviously doesn't seem like people want this picture to be taken, so yes. When you're all prettied up, we could, but that is a difficult thing to do, but that's a good idea. So we'll try it again. We are losing people as the day goes on. We are. That's the only reason.
But if we went on the steps, Corey's presentation would probably lose half.
We talked about that with Corey. Corey was, that's all good. We're mellow. So I got it. Thank you. We just consulted. We got an answer. So Corey, it's all yours. So there was going to be a fundraising item on the agenda. There is still a fundraising item on the agenda. We've heard about it, but we'd love to discuss it with those who find this to be an important topic, whether they agree or disagree. We'd love to hear the feedback. So there is a session this afternoon planned for this. There's one called engagement at 1 o'clock, and there's one called fundraising at 2 o'clock. And that is an hour each. And it's in the Jack and Jane Matthews, the admin building. And that's where we would love to listen to your ideas. There are a group of you who have come together who've discussed the matter already and have a project to support the cohort approach to accompanying, supporting a current student. We are hoping to develop in the future this relationship between every single cohort at the college with an existing current student. We believe that that is the most compelling way that an alum could ever wish for another youth like them, like they were once upon a time, to be able to experience what there is to experience today at Pearson College. And we believe that within time, and yes, it could take a number of years, but some of your cohorts already are able, in fact, individuals are able to fund a scholarship. But we know that there are students now at the college in every range of the socioeconomic spectrum who are here, some of whom are on full scholarship, some are on no scholarship, some are anywhere in the middle. And any cohort raising any amount of funds could very well claim that they are allowing a student at the college to live the experience, regardless of the amount raised. But of course, at our age now, we are in a better position as a collective to perhaps come together and fund a student or more. So that conversation could be held this afternoon to all those who are interested in contributing. So I will repeat this probably at noon so that people know where and at what time. Okay?
Thank you.
Corey, is he here?
He's ready.
He's ready.
You don't feel obliged to say anything.
Yes, and if this is time for a break for some of you, this would be a good moment.
Can I just announce, anyone who has their sheets, offer it up. Return your papers.
I'm going to grab it.
I'll put it out at noon. Yeah. Okay. Totally suggest the engagement. No, not the engagement. Let's do the engagement. That's at one. The engagement's at one. And have that what you're saying. Yes, but you know that might also be, like the groups that are looking at waterfront and you know have very concrete ideas about, no, they have met. That would be a better meeting with Ty, no, it's not that, what I'm saying is Dave Pinnell represents that whole group and he lives here on this island and we could be having that conversation with Ty separately. I'm just saying I don't know how many, but no, I will launch the opportunity to everyone. And I'll even say to people, if you want to talk about strictly engagement matters, we can have that at 3. Environmental. Thank you.
Upstairs and